Welcome to Smashing Success Stories. I am your host, Karen. I'm a speaker, trainer, and consultant. This podcast is meant to inspire people who want results without compromising who they are. This is for folks that want to stay true to themselves while living in a world that challenges our humanity. So welcome, humans, champions, legends, to Smashing Success Stories. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad we're doing this together. Let's get started. In today's episode, we are going to address a topic that is appropriate to where we are in this project: how to get started. Also, spoiler alert, the key concept of this episode is simple. Done is better than perfect. Here's a high-level overview of what we're going to be going over today. 1. Just get started. 2. Acknowledge that there will be barriers to face. 3. Mistakes will be made. 4. Excuses and insecurities are loud. However, just get started. Let's dive in. We are going to tackle this with a 3-step process: acknowledge, accept, action. Acknowledge. There will be barriers, especially barriers that are self-imposed. Take a moment to acknowledge these things. Feel those feelings, do not repress them, and definitely don't push them away. We need to acknowledge them, or they will creep up on us and bite us on our ass when we're trying to move forward. It's like a muscle. We're building a habit here. We acknowledge the things that have inhibited us, that have happened to us, that have held us back in the past. And by acknowledging them, we're taking them with us, not pushing them away. I'm not trying to make it go away. I'm inviting it on the journey. I'm not letting it overcome me, but I am going to continue moving forward, knowing that, I've got some baggage, but carrying that baggage with me is going to give me strength. Moving forward doesn't mean that we're getting over what happened to us or that we're completely eliminating how we feel about it. It means that we grow, we strengthen, we are who we are because of how we move forward with these things. Maybe we've got an idea of something that somebody else is already doing. That's great. That means that there are examples out there. Good examples give us templates for how to improve what makes ours more unique. My favorite are bad examples. Bad examples are amazing teachers. Something else that happens when we are pursuing things is we run into this dysfunction that comes with this obsession with perfection, or also known as analysis paralysis. Look, I've worked with experts and novices alike, and everyone in between, in professional fields and in more kind of relaxed and casual settings. I'm talking specialized doctors, surgeons, business owners, folks that are getting their GED on every stage of their life in all walks of life. I've worked with people that are pursuing higher education, specialized training, learning, or starting a new or different trade. I've worked with entrepreneurs. I've also worked with folks that are incarcerated and are coming up on release and are trying to develop a plan to get back on their feet. I've worked with folks in recovery, people that are still actively in active addiction, and they're seeking a way out. You name it. I've seen a lot. And regardless of the setting or the level of their expertise, there's always a common denominator. Many people struggle with getting started. And when I say getting started, this also includes getting back after setbacks, getting back up, starting again, moving forward. Does this sound familiar? How many of us go down the research rabbit hole and gain tons of insight, but struggle to take any steps to move forward? Can anybody relate to being an idea generator, constantly coming up with cool shit and constantly being in creative flow? Okay, I'll use myself as an example. Look, one of the reasons I want to do this project is because I believe that the advice we give is what we need to hear the most. Many of us who are amazing at solving problems for others often struggle with solving our own problems. We give advice that we need to hear for ourselves. It's like others are a projection of ourselves. We can relate to them. But seeing it for another person is easier because we're not as emotionally invested in their shit as we are our own. So of course I want this to be perfect. I want it to be awesome. But the important thing for me as a person in every facet of my life, because I wholeheartedly believe how we do one thing is how we do everything. I feel that if this is real, if it's authentic, I have hit my goal. That's what it's all about, to share my message in a real and authentic way. So of course it's going to have its flaws. By definition, being real and being authentic means there will inherently be some flaws. And I'm okay with that. Because I'm not aiming for perfection. I'm aiming for real. But of course that itch for perfection, which of course my own insecurities, will keep whispering to me. Okay, sometimes I should be yelling. It's there and it persists. So I simultaneously acknowledge that little jerk and then I just keep moving forward. It's not even about grand gestures or aiming for full completion in one shot. It's about taking action, moving forward at whatever pace. I'll get there. I just gotta keep taking the next step. But this isn't just about me. Let's get real. I'm doing this for a reason. I have a message to share. I'm good at it and I am aspiring to be great at it. Like when I say great, I mean I want to be among the greatest of all time. Ambitious, right? But the beginning wasn't easy for me. I didn't start speaking until I was 3 years old. I also have a stutter. My brain moves fast and my tongue sometimes can't keep up. And sometimes things just completely shut down. So I have to slow down, enunciate, and imagine where I want to go and slow myself down to get there. It takes practice. I have to listen to myself, listen to feedback from others, watch recordings of myself, listen to other speakers, and learn from good and bad influences. Most of all, I have to start from somewhere. I feel that there is also a need for my message, and what I have to give and say is incredibly valuable. That value piece is a part of it. I want to be very intentional about this when I say this. I am building a platform here. But I also know in my own experiences, as well as working with, coaching, teaching, consulting, and managing projects, that we have to have a first draft. Excellence comes by getting those reps in. It may be messy and it may not turn out exactly how we want it to, but it's gonna get done. And done is better than perfect. I'll say it again, and I encourage you to say it with me. Ready? Here we go. Done is better than perfect. One more time. Done is better than perfect. Cool. So we're off the hook as far as perfection goes. What's next? Still stuck? Still stuck in your head? All right, we don't have to necessarily take action on that specific thing that we're thinking about. But we gotta do something. Take a walk, do some squats, meditate for a few minutes. And meditation, this is something we're going to talk about later, but meditation doesn't mean trying to quiet our minds and finding inner peace. It's about acknowledging all of the wild shit going on in our head and being okay with the fact that, oh, that thing, I had that thought, without getting attached to it. And then just continuing to move forward. It's almost like a practice for life, right? But meditation, that's why we call it a practice. We don't call it a meditation perfect. It takes practice. Other things that'll help. Do a scribble. Plan your next meal. Just do something. Okay, so I have this piece of my Roman Empire. It's from the Big Bang Theory. And I know that the Big Bang Theory, in some spaces, it's a highly contentious topic, but the example is good. I love this example. It's where one of the physicists was working on a theory, and he knew he was right. So instead of obsessing about the physics and continuing to stay up and go days on end without rest, he decides to pick up he's going to bust tables at a restaurant for a little bit, just to kind of like do something that's different than physics and a lot easier for him mentally. So he's busting tables, drops a bunch of plates, and then he sees them shattered. And then he has his realization, it's a wave. The concept here is that the thing he was working on, it was still in his mind, but he had to quit obsessing about it, do something else, and then bam, it came to him. Another example, a friend of mine, she's an entrepreneur. She is a brilliant artist, extremely busy person. She goes for walks. And sometimes she'll talk herself out of the walks because she's so busy with work and life and family and all that. But she's getting back in the habit of taking these walks. And during these walks, things that she was obsessing about that she kind of let go because she needed to survive, the ideas came to her. Stephen King talks about this as well in his book on writing, particularly where he was talking about The Stand, where he didn't know what the big resolution was going to be. So he went for a walk, and then the idea came to him after he had been sitting at his desk, writing, obsessing about it. He went for a walk, and then the big thing came to him. Understand that when we embark on something, it's going to be hard. And because we're not experts right away, mistakes will be made. Mistakes are part of the process. You ever heard the phrase, make the first pancake? Who knows what it's like to make pancakes? Often, that first one, it sucks. It's not great. I kind of like the crappy pancake, but I mean, again, I'm all about authenticity, and I do appreciate the flaws because it makes things unique. And straight up, it all tastes the same to me. I put a little bit of butter on it and I'm good to go. I'm kind of indifferent about syrup, but a little bit of butter on my pancake and I'm set. But anyway, we make a good batch of pancakes by making that shitty one first. And then once that first pancake is out of the way, pan is nice and primed, and the rest, chef's kiss. It's awesome. So again, reminding ourselves that done is better than perfect. We're just talking about acknowledging things. Next step, we're going to accept them. Let's just go to strip it down to the very basic concept here that accepting doesn't mean liking. We are totally capable of accepting something that we don't like. For instance, I love my pets. I do not like their shit. But as their caregiver, it's my responsibility to clean their shit. It's just part of sharing a home and having pets in our family. So again, we don't have to like something in order to accept it. We also have to understand in this accepting process that it's a good idea to take inventory of the things that we are responsible for, and also understand that there are things that we're not responsible for. This doesn't give us a free pass, by the way. We can't just say, oh yeah, that's, it's completely out of my control. But on the flip side of that, we can't also take complete ownership of absolutely everything. We got to get out of our egos and understand that there are some things that we are responsible for and some things that we are not responsible for. So remember, we're not responsible for the things that have happened to us, right? How people have treated us, the things that have been said to us. However, we are responsible for how we react. I own how I react to the environment around me. That is incredibly empowering because when we do that, we are accepting our power. We are accepting our strength. We are acknowledging who we are and accepting that there are things out of our control that happen to us. How we navigate through life is within our control, so we can make good choices. Our lives and experience shape how we think, how we feel, how we act. So we can either become victims of the things that have happened to us, or we can be the victors of our lives. Also understand that there may be critics, and we may be our own biggest critics. Do it anyway. Judgment is going to be part of it. It's okay to judge. Just do not fester in it. Find a way to process that judgment in a healthy way. So for instance, I have a social worker friend, and she gets together about once a week with another social worker, and they watch reality trash TV. Because with their clients, they have to be objective. So they take that one day a week and just talk trash about some garbage bullshit TV. My wife and I do this as well. We're not going to shit on people online or, by the way, I don't engage in that bullshit online. I have too much stuff to do. My energy deserves to be put into things that are productive. And also, I feel that when people try to get involved in that debate, they kind of have a bit of a shame kink, and I'm not going to do that shit for free. Anyway, so we want to not get involved in that discourse. And I definitely don't want to get involved in like being super duper complaining, because I know what that's like. I have been that person. It is a work in progress. One of my goals of 2026 is to be able to share without obsessing on the complaining thing. But like for my wife and I, we give ourselves just a couple minutes a day to trash talk something and just be ridiculous. And then we move on. I'm talking just a couple minutes. Just get out of your head and move on. Also, my barber, oh my gosh, I love doing this with my barber as well. We do it. We run our mouths and then we stay in the solution. And that's important. It's okay to complain. I mean, we all got to get that stuff off of our chest in a healthy and productive manner. Stay in the solution. She and I talk about fun things. We kiki. We have a good time. I love that she opened her own business, because now our conversations have blossomed into my favorite topics, which is ideas. The pursuit of something is going to be an uncomfortable process, and we are naturally inclined to play it safe. But that's not how we grow. Lack of action causes resentments toward ourselves and even toward others that are doing what we want to do. And somehow we find ways to blame people if we're in that resentment game. So me, I'd much rather take a risk and do the thing versus continuing to harbor resentments. And dude, I love harboring resentments. Anger? Oh man, that is my go-to. I am a fiender when it comes to anger. I know why I like being angry. It's my mask from my sadness. I gotta sit in that. I gotta feel, what? I'd rather just be angry and just project. However, that's not healthy. So instead, I need to acknowledge what are my resentments. And then by working on them, I acknowledge my part in the situation. And when I see where I fucked up, I can take action to fix it. It's not going to be perfect, but doing this builds a habit. And the more we do it, the quicker we can get past the bullshit and actually do something constructive. Also, after a recent conversation in a local women's group, I feel compelled to share this part. Big stuff is great. Pursuing dreams, pushing ourselves to do hard stuff and scary, all that. Awesome, right? But I wholeheartedly acknowledge that sometimes seeking comfort, the desire to have basic needs met, having things like housing, a stable job, friends, even relationships are huge for a lot of folks. What is seemingly standard stuff for some people is a freaking dream for some folks that are going through it. I absolutely have space for that. I absolutely know that feeling. I've been in it myself a lot. So if that's the dream, to have a place to live, to have a job, to have one or two people to call friend, if that's the dream, go for it. Safety, comfort, hierarchy of needs stuff, those are all important. But if you also know that deep within you, you want more, keep that feeling within you, knowing that once you have what you need, you can pursue what you want. I say this because I know it. Some of us are scrappy. Comfort doesn't satisfy. We're built different. We're meant to strive. But striving doesn't necessarily mean struggling all the time. This is something that we'll deep dive into in the future in another episode. But when I say it's okay to want comfort and safety, especially after going through hard times and wanting some peace for a while. If we get to a point where we feel content and what we're doing, where we are in life, and who we're with feels enough, that's great. That's okay. However, if there is a pull towards something that feels like it's calling to us, and not some hedonistic bullshit like material wealth, but rather something fulfilling and exciting, we need to listen to that voice, or it'll either get really loud and annoying, or real quiet and sad. Take a step to move closer toward what's calling. Just one step. Even if that step is simply acknowledging that voice and accepting what it is saying. And definitely plan to pursue it. And be ready to take action to get closer to that calling. And that brings us to the last step. Action. Priming ourselves. We've done the acknowledging, we've done the accepting. Now we're getting ready to actually take those steps. So moving forward, getting this momentum, where to start? Priming. There's mental preparation, there's emotional preparation, there's spiritual preparations. What does this mean? Think of things that get you hyped, that get you excited, that get you motivated. For me, music, fellowship, prayer, and meditation. And I don't mean this in, for lack of a better term, in like structured ways. I mean, what makes me feel that I am surrounded with positive energy that's like taking me to that next level, that makes me feel like, wow, this has been so good for my spirit. So for instance, being with my friends, hanging out with my family, sitting on the couch with my cat on my chest. Sometimes just sitting for 10 minutes and getting out of my head, that gets me ready, and I am now primed. I start my day every day with something called the leap, and it is my list of things of what I want, where I want to go, and the things that I have in mind to help me get there. I have a playlist, and I also have an action plan. First and foremost, my chores got to get taken care of. I have responsibilities, so I get everybody settled, everything squared away, the house is good to go, and then I go ahead and I get myself primed and ready to go. Getting hyped, getting motivated, getting inspired. And if these steps are being taken, but we still get to that, I'm stuck, what do I do then? Well, for me, I get ridiculous about it. I do some, so I had a couple things that I was working on that I didn't even know where to get started. 2 examples. I was doing a press release for something, and another example, I was having a yard sale. I approached both of those in the same exact way. I wrote both of them as if it was some ridiculous superhero shit, right? I was just like, for the yard sale, I was like, you're going to see some incredible things that you've never seen before. And just kind of got completely carried away with it. That was my first draft. Brene Brown calls it an SFD, a shitty first draft. That was my first draft. And some of those things stayed on for the yard sale post because it wasn't something as formal as a press release. And guess what? Look, when I do yard sales, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I will go ahead and post the start time for an hour after what I'm anticipating people to show up as, right? So if I say 6 a.m. start time, I know people are going to start showing up at 5 a.m. Early birds are a thing. Also with me, I do know that most of my sales, and I've had many yard sales before, I know that the bulk of my sales happen within the first couple hours. So I even put on there, early birds welcome. You know what? Because that shit works. And this is a good example of how developing habits, taking action, it gives us insight and it gives us wisdom. And we can leverage that insight into other aspects of our lives. So another example that I can think of is there was somebody who owned a fast food restaurant, and he's going to the bank. And as he's at the bank, he notices that there's a drive-thru, and then he's like, wait a second. And that's why we now have drive-thrus at fast food restaurants, because somebody got those ideas from banks. So that's just how getting out there, doing things, it inspires us. We take a look at examples and we can leverage that insight into other aspects of our lives, surrounding ourselves with influences and then just tapping into that database so that now we have some resources that help us come with solutions. So continuing forward with this idea of actions, creating a playlist, music, books, audiobooks, videos, these things, this priming, getting that hype, getting ourselves exciting, create something that hypes you up because it will work, and be consistent with it. That is key. Because being excited, being motivated, being super inspired, that's a great feeling. It's like you're up in the clouds and the energy is just incredible. It's almost like falling in love for the first time, or that spark of, oh, I really like this person. Like when we're like getting serious with somebody that we kind of newer got involved with. So like, that's a great feeling, but it ain't sustainable. Consistency helps us continue that momentum and helps make that a more sustainable thing, because that motivation and that inspiration will ultimately turn into a habit when we are consistent with it. Also, be about it. Think about it. Talk to yourself about it. Write it down. Put it somewhere that you'll see often. Set timers, calendar reminders. Like I have a 6 a.m. calendar reminder every day to read a daily motivator every single day. And it's just something that's short. It's quick. It just takes like a couple minutes. It's greatday.com. I'll throw the link in the show notes. It's just a wonderful daily motivator that just keeps me on my toes. I do take days off. So even on my days off, even if I'm not like going through my workflow and planning on one of my 4 businesses, I do take days off. And even on those days off, I still look at my leap list and I still read the daily motivator. Like I said, be about it. Set yourself up so that you can't escape it. And it's okay to talk about it with folks that you love and that you trust. I do advise, however, be selective about who you share these good things with. Sometimes the folks that were there for us when we were down and out, they act different when we're pursuing something great. So with that, just know that not everyone can be everything for all of us, just like we can't be everything to everyone. More of that to come. Look back at your successes from the past. Review the things that you've done before. Think about your accomplishments. Do you have a brag book? Look, if you don't have a brag book, start one. If anything, start a document or write an email to yourself or use a notes app on your phone and make a note that says brag book. Think about all of the accolades and commendations that you've gotten over the years. Or even if it was something that was super recent, think about something that somebody said to you that made you feel good. And I'm not talking about like some basic bullshit. I'm talking about acknowledging something that you've done that you were striving. That was a goal that you had set out to achieve and you finally did it. So like yesterday, right? Yesterday, I did something that I have been planning for about 2 years. It was a fun project. It was a goofy thing, but I'd been sitting on it. I was like, how am I going to pull this off? It's going to be funny. It's going to be cutesy. Like, it's going to be just a good time. And like yesterday, I finally did it. And when I shared it, both within kind of like my social circle, as well as a group where this particular hobby is enjoyed, talked about, troubleshooting from, basics to advanced, whatever, I shared in the group. And like, that shit popped. People were so excited about it because it was something fun and it was cool. And I think sometimes we get so wrapped up in like, oh, this rigid structure that we just forget as adults to have some fun. So even if it's something like that, have a brag book. One of my brag books is specifically for things like my hobbies, my interests, the things that I do for fun. And I'm not specifically doing them for that kind of like outward validation. Now, okay, I'm grown up and I'm woman enough to admit that yes, of course, outward validation does feel nice. It does. But we cannot rely on that. Most importantly, we have to rely on the feeling of satisfaction, that respect within ourselves. However, when it does come from those outside sources, put it in your brag book. And if, again, you don't have one, start one. Think about performance appraisals that you've gotten from jobs before. Or just go ahead and reach out to people and ask them if they would write you a commendation. So, for instance, I recently had a situation with a vendor where our deal fell apart. And as the client, I was let go from something that I had paid for. I'm not going to get into it. However, I will say this. It was a lesson learned. I should have known better, but what I wanted to do from that point moving forward is, one, find a better vendor, and two, know exactly the framework that I like to work in: clear communication, prompt responses, professional rapport, and definitely make sure that when I'm hiring a vendor, that I am seeking somebody who is actively looking for work. It was very clear that when I reached out to this person, they couldn't give a shit. And I should have known better. Now I'm working with somebody who is phenomenal. So lesson learned. However, when I was going through it and the project fell apart, I knew that what had happened, I own my side of it. Of course, I'm going to own up to it. That's on me. My side, my actions, that's on me. However, I needed to make sure that I had my Brad book situated, not specifically as somebody who does consulting, that does provide services, that does do business, but as a client. So I had reached out to several people that I've worked with where I was the client and they were the people that I had hired for services. And I got feedback from them to get my brag book as a vendor started up. It's also similar whenever you do anything like, I think about eBay as an example as well. On eBay, you get reviews both as a seller as well as a buyer. And that's great. Your brag book can act exactly the same way. Let's talk about the pursuing of something huge like following a dream. Follow your dreams, but have a plan. Know what the goal is, come up with a plan, create actionable steps to get there, and then take the first step. The thing about pursuing a dream or doing something that's really original is that people will think that you're fucking crazy. Do it anyway. Some examples I can think of are women in healthcare. Women who are actively seeking healthcare. I think about examples from the past where women used to be called hysterical by their doctors. But later on, diagnoses were made for things like EDS, for autoimmune diseases, because women advocated for themselves. I am certain men have advocated for themselves as well and pursued greatness in medicine and have huge advances in technology. But I also want to be very clear about something from the jump. We know that women, and especially Black women, are disproportionately not taken care of when it comes to being treated in the healthcare industry versus people who are not women, and definitely people who are not Black women. This is something that anybody who is in the shit can absolutely tell you. As a woman myself, I can absolutely tell you that, yeah, I have totally been brushed off, and I have had to learn to advocate for myself. And those things have led to advances. For instance, I am a vegetarian because I had to advocate for myself. Becoming a vegetarian was the only way that the damage from COVID was managed in a way to make my life a lot more comfortable. Becoming a vegetarian definitely wasn't like, I'm just going to go ahead and admit it. It wasn't like this huge ethical choice. I did it because for my health, I had to. It was the one thing that got me out of misery, and I am never going back. I also think about the first doctor that advocated for hand washing, right? Hand washing. This is the year, by the time this is published, this is 2026. The whole idea of hand washing became a mandate in 1847. And the doctor that advocated for it was an obstetrician. And he was called crazy by the medical community. However, when doctors started washing their hands, the mortality rate of infants dropped significantly. Now it's common practice. I'll include some resources about this particular doctor. It's Ignaz Semmelweis, a Hungarian doctor. And it's amazing how something that's standard now was, oh, that's such a wild idea that somebody was literally ostracized for. This happens now. Solo ventures, leaving the comfort of a steady paycheck and doing something that is more important for again, we're talking about like if pursuing that thing, if getting comfort is the main goal, cool. But for some of us, that voice is telling us there's more for us. Have a plan. Think about what is next. How am I going to get there? There are moonshot projects, inventions, discoveries. Take the first step. If this is something where we're just getting going, start with something easy, like making the bed. We've all seen that speech at the Naval Academy, make your bed. If you haven't seen it, I'll include resources in the show notes. But do something quick, do an easy chore. So for instance, I know some folks struggle with gumption to take a shower. Okay, that's fine. That's totally understandable. Grab some clothes. Grab a towel, grab a washcloth. Like, just start with that one thing. Or just the towel, or just the washcloth, or just some clothes. Get that stuff and just put it on the bathroom. So for instance, for me, I put it on the bathroom, on the sink counter. And then I start the shower. From there, undress. Get in the shower. You did it. Secret to this. The hardest part is grabbing those clothes, that towel, that washcloth. That is the hardest part. Because that goes from the concept of wanting to do it to taking an action and doing it. I promise you this. Once you take that first action, the others will become easier. The biggest gap between idea and action closes the more we take those steps. The gaps close. We gain momentum. It gets easier. Another example, getting back into the gym or struggling to get started working out. Lay out your clothes. And then get your stuff ready. Make sure that your headphones are charged up. Make sure that you have a playlist. If you take a shower at the gym, pack your shower bag, have your locker stuff ready, all of that. And then put on the gym clothes and then the shoes, the sneakers, whatever you wear, and then head out. Start gradually. So for me, when I work out, I like a breezy 5-minute warm-up. And then I think about what my workout is for the day. So today, for instance, I did push-pulls on biceps and triceps. So getting ready to go to the gym, after my warm-up, I'm working out, I'm thinking about these things. And then as I'm at the gym and working out and getting started doing my warm-up, I start eyeballing which machines I'm going to use for those particular exercises. And also knowing what muscles I'm going to work and what my workout's going to look like helps me be a little bit more adaptive if particular machines aren't ready. So I can go to the free weights, or I can go over to a different area, or I could do like plyometrics and so forth if I don't want to wait for a machine. I'm not somebody who waits for a machine. I'm not going to take turns. I don't go to the gym when it's super duper busy. I don't want to be around that many people in the gym. I want to get in, get it done, get out. Plus, on specific days, I have an accountability partner. She goes and works out at the place next door to my gym. I work out while she's doing her group class, and then we finish at the same time. So I'm not waiting for anything. I'm getting it done. These small wins, they help us gain momentum. And regardless of how small those steps are, they will bring us further from where we started. Another thing is, what do we do after we've failed, after we've made mistakes, after we've just outright landed on our ass? Recalibrate. Understand that retreating doesn't mean quitting. So for instance, I'm back in the gym because I took a little bit of time off because I got injured. And that happens. It's certainly not the first time I've been injured. Just shit happens. Understand that we're not starting over after we've taken this little retreat, after we've taken a step back. We're moving forward. It's not quitting, it's retreating. Get yourself in a better position so that you can come back stronger. We're not failing as long as we keep fighting. Keep fighting. Don't quit. Take breaks to rest. Take care of yourself and just keep moving forward. What is meant for you will find its way to you. You just got to keep navigating through the challenges that will inevitably pop up. If it was easy, everybody would do it. But if it's meant for you, it's not meant for everybody, and it's going to be hard. Claim it. It's yours. Think about this lyric from my favorite band, Motionless in White. On every scar is a badge of a lesson I've learned that took me 20 fucking years to earn. It's a banger. That's from Afraid of the Dark by Motionless in White. Highly recommend it. I also recommend watching the reaction by the Riker Road Brothers. Their reactions are great, but especially to this song and to this particular video, especially when Chris drops that line about on every scar is a badge of a lesson that I've learned. Like, the way that they react to that, I live for that moment. I really hope Motionless sees that reaction because it's by far one of my favorites. So what's next? We're getting ready to take action. So let's plan our action steps. It's a 3-step process. I'm all about processes, and a lot of my processes are 3 steps long. Brainstorm it. So taking all these ideas of the things that we want to do and either setting up a timer to make sure that we're busy for that time. I like 10-minute timers. But if the timer goes off and you're still going at it, keep going. If you're in a flow state, don't stop. Do not stop. I do like working with the principle of a certain amount of time dedicated to work and then taking a pause. So like my workflow is 50 minutes of work to 10 minutes of walking away, resting, doing whatever I got to do. And by the way, refilling my beverage, going to the bathroom, that doesn't count. Those are human functions. I'm not going to wait until my break to fill up my water bottle. Please, I'm an adult. Anyway, as you're getting ready to pursue an action, plan a brainstorm. Write it out. I type better and faster than I physically write, but sometimes I have to just physically write it out. That happens too. Take the time to brainstorm that shit. And then once all of the stuff has been just regurgitated, walk away. Walk away for 5 minutes. It's out of your head. Recalibrate, refocus. Come back to that brainstorm after you've taken that pause. And then start looking at things that can be clustered and categorized together. This is called a mind map, where you start collecting things that are supposed to be together. So for instance, when I outlined this discussion, I had no idea that it was going to be outlined as acknowledging, accepting, and action. This came together because after my brainstorm, I saw patterns, and that mind map came together once I saw, I'm seeing these patterns. That's acknowledging, so that's accepting, and that's taking action. So that's an example of what this looks like when we brainstorm a mind map. And then once we have that mind map, we come up with an action plan. I won't deep dive into my action plan. It's a very long document, and it's got so many ideas. But for today's episode, I came up with an action plan about how I was going to get it done. And I also know, again, it ain't going to be perfect. I'm saying this stuff. Some of this stuff came out extemporaneously, and I'm just like, man, I'm going to have to edit that out. I might just leave it because we're just getting started. And after all, I was talking about authenticity, so let's go ahead and leave some of those rough spots in there. I'm not too mad about it. Anyway, speaking of action plans, I developed a template for you. Feel free to go ahead and check it out. It is at smashingsuccessstories.com/just get started. The link will also be in the show notes. So my question to you, what do you want to do this week? For me, I want to make a video. Way out of my comfort zone, but I want to get it done. And what's one step you can take toward that goal? Thanks for being here. New episodes go live every Monday and Thursday. Subscribe, share, and follow Smashing Success Stories on Instagram and YouTube. Bonus content and exclusives are available to patrons. Check out patreon.com/Smashing Success Stories for membership tiers and details. And always remember, whoever you are, wherever you are, just know that you are loved and that you are important. We are in this together. Till next time.